Hello, my name is Martin Tully. I'm a sales engineer slash solutions architect here at Portnox. And today what we're going to do is walk through setting up Intune to deploy certificates to endpoints, of course, using our Portnox certificate. So let's take a look at the directions here. So you can see on docs.portnox.com and basically SCEP, Intune, and Windows. If there's another type of OS that you want to do, or maybe some other type of MDM. You can see here we have all the links here on the left-hand side that you can, great documentation for all of that here. So as you can see here, the first part we need to do inside the tenant itself is to turn on SCEP services. And you can see that from within here, right? We need to turn on the SCEP services. So if we take a look at that in my tenant here, let me get this over. Under settings, right? If I go to clear general settings right here and I expand that out and I scroll down a little bit, what you'll see here is that SCEP services piece. So right here is SCEP services. And so what you want to do is enable that integration. You're going to set up your own password, and then you can see here the expiration. It'll then provide you with the SCEP URL. It also provides you with the SCEP URL for MS Intune, assuming that the integration with Intune, based off the integration services here on the left-hand side, and the Intune has been configured, that would generate that URL that you can use for Intune. So back to the documentation, we got this piece done here. So if we scroll down a little bit further, the next thing we want to do is download that root CA from the Portnox Cloud. You can see again in the directions, Cloud Radius Services, and where you go and download that root certificate inside my tenant, right? If I come over here and I go to Services and Clear Radius Service, you'll see here that I have the ability to download that root certificate. And so what I would do is just go and download it. I already downloaded it once, but you can see here it does say root certificate .1. So that is the Radius certificate that you're downloading. The second one that we need to download is your tenant certificate. The tenant certificate is found here under Clear General Settings, right above where we were setting up the SCEP services. So if I scroll down a little bit further down, what you'll see here is the tenant one, and you can see again that here is that download button to download. Now, when you download this particular certificate, there is something that we need to do. So you'll hit download, and this certificate is going to come down as a PFX, and you can see that this one came down as a CER. So what we need to do is just convert this in. This is obviously very easy with Windows. So with Windows, once I open up that file, I can double click on this. And then when I double click on it, I can go ahead and just import this in anywhere. So no password, I'll hit next. I'll place this in a personal store here, hit next and finish. Once that's done, what I want to do is go back to the certificate store where I just put that one in. So you can just type in CER and the certificates will open for you. Go to personal certificates, and there you can see it there that I have here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to export this. So I'll say export, and then I'll click next. And then you can see here I'm going to do base 64 X509 CER. This will allow Intune to accept this. I will call this a specific name. Right, and I will put it in my desktop so I can find it easy. Oops, done it here. And hit save, next, and finish. So I'm done with the certificates. If we're following along here with the guide, we downloaded the tenant CA, and then of course we also did the, we downloaded the root CA, and then we downloaded the tenant CA. You can see here again, everything that I did here previously, you can see that from within here. So the next piece that we need to do is go into Intune and start to work in Intune. So in Intune, right, when you go to the home page, what you want to do is go to devices. Since we're working on Windows, we'll go to Windows and we'll go to configuration. So I have configuration. Take a look at this here. I'm in Windows devices. I am in Intune, as you can see, and I am using configuration here. And so what I need to do is upload those certificates, and I need to create a SCEP URL, which is obviously what we did in the first step of this video. So first thing I want to do is create a new policy. And when I do that from within here, I'll say Windows 10 and later. I'll select a template. And when I come down here, there should be one that says certificate. If you don't see it, you can just type it in. It'll be trusted certificate. I'll say create. This will be the radius one that we downloaded. So this is the one that we did not have to import export. And actually what I'll do is we'll give it a name here. I'll hit next and I'll hit browse. And you can see here, here's that root one. So I'll say open, next. Where am I going to distribute this? So this is where you're going to say where this certificate is going to be distributed to. So these are the included groups. So what I'll do here is I'll say add groups. Then you can search for all your groups here. And I actually have one called Portnox Intune users, which I'm going to use here. And I'll say select. And so now anybody who is a member of this, you can see I only have 2 users in this group, will now get that certificate distributed to them. I'll hit next. No applicability rules. If you have some, of course, feel free to put them in. And then I'm done with that certificate. So now I'm done with that certificate. So now I need to create another one. And you can see there it is, the Portnox radius. So now I'm going to create my tenant one. So same thing here, templates, go to certificate. So trusted certificate. And here will be Portnox tenant CA. And I'll go next. I'll hit browse. Go to the desktop, that's where I put that in. There is that certificate. Hit next. Again, going to select the groups I'm going to pass this to. Luckily, I don't have a lot here, so Portnox Intune users, select next, next, and create. So now I've got my 2 certificates in there. The next thing I need to do is create a SCEP certificate, right? So if we're looking at the documentation, we basically knocked out all this piece here. And if we keep scrolling down, what we're going to do is get to the SCEP piece. And here we are right here. So create the SCEP services. So let's bring back Intune. We'll say create new policy. Here, Windows 10, again, templates again, and there should be a SCEP certificate, and you can see it there. I'll say create, and I'll call this Portnox SCEP. And I'll hit next. And then here you have some options, right? So do you want to do user or device certificate? Because I use Portnox Intune users, I am going to use a user certificate. I also have a subject format name as well as a subject alternative name. And let's go back to the documentation and let's see what that says here. So we'll scroll down a little bit, and what you see here is the device one. We'll keep scrolling down since we're doing users. And here is the user one. So we'll keep scrolling down. And what you can see here, it is user. And then what we're doing here is you can see under the subject name format, we're using user principal name. So I'll copy that and I'll put that here in my subject format name. Right? If we scroll a little bit further down, what you see here, there's also a URI and a UPN. So here is the URI. We'll copy that and come back over here. And you can see here, there is that URI right here. I'll put that setting in there. And then the other option is that user principal name. So which is just user principal name. So UPN here, we'll select this setting right here. So we don't need the CN on this one. And we're done. 1 year, we can do enroll to trusted platform. Um, KSP if present, so select that. Key usage, we'll do digital and key assignment. Uh, Key is 2048, hash is SHA-1, and we'll keep coming down here further. And then the next thing it wants to do is that root certificate. So we'll say root, and this is we're going to select the tenant CA, right? So not the radius one, but we're selecting the tenant one. Say OK. The next piece here is the key usage. The key usage is going to be client authentication. You can see all those values get filled once I do that. And then if I scroll a bit further, you can see here that there is a SCEP URL that needs to be presented. If I go back to my tenant here, and I go back to a little bit further down, here is that SCEP URL. So you can see here in the tenant, under SCEP services, there is that SCEP URL for Intune. You can just hit the copy button, and that will copy that for you. So I click copy, move this over, put that SCEP URL here, hit next. Again, going to select the same group, which is the Portnox Intune users. Hit next. Again, no rules here. Next and create. Let's see what happened here. What didn't it like? Go previous. Oh, maybe it was this one, Portnox. Sorry, I selected the wrong one. So it's the Portnox tenant CA that I was supposed to use. So that should work now. All right. And the next thing we want to do is create a Wi-Fi profile. So I'll hit create, hit a new policy, Windows 10 or later, again, template again. And if I scroll down here, there is Wi-Fi. If you're doing wired, there's also a wired option here. They make this a lot easier now. It used to be XML, but you can actually do wired very easily. So here's Wi-Fi. I'll say create. I will call this Portnox Wi-Fi. Hit next. Wi-Fi type, we're going to say enterprise here. The SSID and connection name should be the same, so that way they can broadcast the same. So in this particular one, on my virtual machine that I have here, I'm broadcasting two SSIDs. One is Port Unify and one is Port Aruba. So we'll use Port Aruba as my SSID. And again, they should be the same unless you want to change it. None of these settings matter unless it's pertinent to you. In this particular case, it's not pertinent to me. You can keep scrolling down. The EAP type, right? So that is the big piece because we're using certificate-based authentication. What we want to do is make sure we select EAP TLS is what we're using. Then there is a server trust here. So if you see right here, this server trust option, this is where we're going to select that radius one. So I can click here, select one or more certificates, and I'm going to use the Portnox radius one. I'll say OK. If I scroll down here, authentication method, I'm going to use SCEP certificate. And then I can select the profile, and we have that Portnox SCEP. Say OK. I'll say next. That's basically all the settings there. Add that same group, which is Portnox Intune users. Select next. Again, no rules. Next and create. And that should do it. Those are the four pieces. Of course, if you want to do wired, you can set up another wired one. If you need to set up another Wi-Fi, maybe for different SSIDs for different users, you can do that from within here as well. But other than that, it's just really waiting now for Intune to push out those profiles down to the device. And you can see, obviously, when that does get pushed, it would say that from within here. All right, thanks.